Last month, it was 13 million views. I didn't spend one dime in ads. Fundamentally, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. YouTube is the king of long-form content. People will call in and hire from the long-form videos because I'm giving away so many of the secrets. People follow people, not companies.
Sharp strategies, sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome. You're listening to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. I am your host, Tiffany Swedinsky, and today I'm talking with Jeff Hampton of YouTube Rainmakers. I actually had a chance to talk to Jeff last week. It was the first time we met Zoom to Zoom or face to face, I guess. But naturally, I've heard about Jeff and his YouTube acumen for I think years at this point. I've seen him on LinkedIn, seen him speak at many lawyer events, and clearly does this pretty much better than anyone else. And I'll turn it over to Jeff to finish out his introduction, but thank you so much for being on the show with me.
Well, thank you, Tiffany. That's very kind of you to say what you said about me in the intro there. But yeah, so I'm an attorney, own two law firms, and one's a criminal defense firm, and the other is a nationwide asset protection law firm for Airbnb owners. And as part of those two different firms, I've been able to scale those to multiple seven figures, and a big part of the success of that has been YouTube. And so for me, what led to YouTube Rainmakers is essentially I kind of used my two channels in those two areas of law as my laboratory. And I really just went deep into understanding video marketing, how it could be leveraged, not just on YouTube, but in other ways, in other capacities in terms of getting more conversions and building your expertise. And then that's ultimately what led, I wasn't even thinking about starting YouTube Rainmakers, but I had attorneys reaching out to me saying, Jeff, you got to show me how to do this. And what started off as kind of a course turned into a full agency. And now we get a chance to work with well over 40 attorneys right now that we're currently helping them build their brand on YouTube.
I have so many questions, but I guess one that I had pre-planned that was mine. So you're really invested in YouTube. Do you ever have the conversation about should we be more diversified? Should we expand out of YouTube? Or are you just fully in this niche?
I'm not against other platforms. I will tell you. So my philosophy is this. What I've learned is I love short form content. Short form content has a very short life. When it goes out, it may grab attention, but I see short form content as much more of like, almost like a billboard. It's like a general awareness. It creates visibility. But for me anyway, it doesn't always build trust. So I can create awareness and visibility, but I've never bought anything from a 60-second clip, certainly not anything that affects my life or my finances or my family or anything major. So long form content, on the other hand, it's more in depth. It's what I call helpful content when you do this the right way. And so YouTube is the king of long form content. And so really what you can do is, I'm not against TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of those. Those are great platforms. And a part of our services, we make sure and we post to all of those platforms. But where I have seen the most traction personally in my firms is that people will call in and hire from the long form videos because I'm giving away so many of the secrets that they're not really secrets, but to the potential client, they are. They're like, they'll call in and say, I've called dozens of lawyers and none of them have told me what you said on the video. And it's just like so in depth and you've given me all this. So it's really leveraging the law of reciprocity. If I give away my secrets, they're going to want to buy the implementation. And that's a lot harder to do on a 60-second clip.
So would you consider YouTube a way to build brand awareness, or is it more of an SEO play? How would you categorize it if you had to?
So there's really certainly three ways to really leverage YouTube. The first, fundamentally, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. And so because it is, think of it this way, if I create content right now and I want to rank on Google, I'm going to be competing against, 60 other competitors. And it's going to be really hard to be page one, spot one for any organic. And we know how this works now. You've got AI search and ads before you ever get to organic anyway on Google. Whereas YouTube's totally different. YouTube's like what Google was back in the day, in the good days, right? Where you could really get traction on Google. And what I mean by that is on YouTube, not as much advertising for the attorneys. But secondly, I'm competing only against maybe 3 to 4 attorneys when I'm putting out content as opposed to 60. And so if you know how to optimize your videos and you know how to actually create content that integrates SEO strategies within your transcripts themselves before you even record, then what you'll end up doing is being able to rank for a lot of these practice area sections where, what does it do now? where you can rank for YouTube search, but where does AI search play in? AEO. AEO now looks at YouTube, LinkedIn, a couple of different sources, but YouTube's right up there in the top 3. It will pull from there and you'll start ranking in AI-based searches on Google because it will pull from those. You'll be seen as more of a trusted authority. So one is search. That's the easiest way. The second way is attorneys really don't realize how bad their websites are. If they were to actually look at their website or their landing pages and say, everyone gets hyper-focused on traffic, but instead of just getting hyper-focused on traffic, you should also get very focused on conversions. What is it about my landing page or my website, my homepage? Why is it not converting? If I've got an 85, 90% bounce rate, if I'm not converting like it should, I need to be finding ways to put this great converting YouTube content embedded on my homepage above the fold and on my practice area pages. And when we've done this with attorneys, you win the second way by seeing higher conversions on your other marketing. And then the third way we do it is I've seen this content does really well because I don't have to spend money on ads. I mean, I've got, I don't even know how many views, but like last month it was 13 million views. I didn't spend one dime in ads, almost as many views as like CNN, right? I have more views than CNN every month. And so if you think about that, how crazy that is, it tells you how much CNN's dropped, right? But if you go in and you look at it, the actual number of views is no ads. It's all organic. And so if you learn how to leverage the algorithm only cares about really 2 things: predicting what the viewer wants to watch and keeping them on the platform. And if you get to know your audience, then you can have a lot of visibility without having to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to get it.
Something I would say more often and louder, if it wouldn't be so darn unpopular, is that I think Google and the AI agents or AGO, what they're ranking isn't necessarily like your website or your content. I feel like what they're ranking is really effort. AI has made mass producing text content wickedly easy, but with videos, it's harder to fake. And with long form videos, it's really hard to fake. And I think that's where a lot of the value is with the long form videos, is that you're showing up in a very authentic way, hard to fake, hard to script and say exactly the right things, which I think is really intimidating for some people. What's the classic Google rule, like 11, 7, 4? They need to see you in 11 platforms, 7 hours of content, and 4 touch points or something like that. I always forget how the numbers actually break down. And video is pretty much the fastest way to do it, but you actually have to know how to put together a good video, which I think is the difficult part.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and remember, like I tell people all the time, they may see you on YouTube. Let's say they watch a video of you on YouTube. They may then go and do a Google search on you and look at your reviews. And maybe they even call from your Google business profile. But in reality, if your intake team is kind of tracking what led them to call in, you'll end up finding out the video played a big role in that as part of one of those touch points. And so the creating the video part is, there's really 2 big areas most attorneys fail. One is they don't know really how to script a video and they just kind of do it cavalier. They just think having some brainstorming discussion on a video is going to do well. It almost never does. And then the second thing that they don't know really how to leverage is the power of persuasive packaging. They don't know how to really create good titles and thumbnails. You could have amazing content, and if you never earn the click, it doesn't matter because no one's ever going to watch it. So those are 2 big areas that it's not like you can, and quite frankly, most law firm marketing companies don't know anything about it. They do things as it relates to ads and your website, but when it comes to video, it's kind of a desert out there in terms of instruction on how to really get it going.
Because it's difficult to do. It's difficult to do because you can't have a replacement for the attorney, like the star of the show. I was talking with a client of mine and they were talking about how they want to make like a big branding, almost mass media splash with YouTube. They're basically wanting to get a lot of visibility, but not by doing traditional mass media like billboards and television. And they're really interested in YouTube. What kind of content should they be thinking about making?
So this is where we talk about, it depends on how you define branding. So if you say, I really want to you kind of want to do a mass release of videos for branding. I'm a bigger fan of, instead of what I call the spray and pray method, which is people just throw stuff out there and hope it gets traction. I'm a bigger fan with our clients of really getting specific. You want to do a market analysis. You want to see what strategy in your niche is working right now. I would rather have a good idea of the content that already resonates with your potential audience and just good old-fashioned marketing. Like if I want a client, I need to know who that client is. Who is your ideal client profile? What are their pain points? What are their interests? What are their concerns? And when we start talking about those sort of things, we want to create videos speaking to a particular avatar. And so, like on my end, my asset protection law firm, I speak to a particular person. Her name's Wealthy Wendy, and I know exactly who she is. I know what her pain points are. I know the kind of things she's looking for. And when I talk to Wealthy Wendy on my videos, it actually attracts the right people that are not just watching the video, but calling in. So you got to know what you want your brand to look like before you start doing a branding push on YouTube. You've got to really say, what kind of clients do I want? And for me, high net worth, you know who Wealthy Wendy is? She's at home, her husband's a W-2 professional, or vice versa. It can be Wealthy Will and her husband, or his wife is the one that's out doing the W-2, whatever that is. But I find a lot of women for my asset protection firm, they're the ones that initiate that contact, and they're the ones who care about that protection. The guy's just kind of doing his thing sometimes. And so from that perspective, I started doing that, and I was shocked at how really you're grabbing a hold of the pain points of the potential client. And I'm not just going after everybody. I'm going after who I know I want to be known for, that I'm speaking their language. That to me is much more important than, and nothing against, I love Gary Vee, but nothing against, different than get the Gary Vee of just going to everybody, right? If I want to just like throw it out to everybody, I'm going to get a lot of stuff that doesn't match what I do for my firm. And I don't want that. I would rather have things that I know are going to be monetized and not just a vanity view.
Well, and I'll relate to my experience with Facebook ads, because with Facebook ads these days, you make a video and Facebook decides who to show it to. And you can get good results if you report back to Facebook which leads you got that were good, which leads you got were signed cases. So it's definitely workable, but like you specifically said, it goes to everybody. And initially, and even after it's optimized, you're still going to get a lot of people who don't fit your profile with that kind of like mass digital media. But with these long form YouTube videos, I mean, you can capture some really specific intent. And it really does not surprise me that women reach out and initiate that kind of thing more than men, because I could see that I'm the one talking to my husband about those topics. It's not the other way around. I talk to a lot of firms, and they really want to establish themselves as being a unique presence or like a brand, essentially. They really want to establish an identity, put out a tagline, see how the market responds to it. How much do you talk about your brand on YouTube versus to your ideal client or something else?
Yeah. So like for me, I can use myself as an example, right? So one of the things for Hampton Law, one of the things I did over time is I began to understand, even though, yes, I offer services, there's things that out there, it's really important to get a feel for how your viewers see you, right? So what are the things that they do to frame you as the reason why they want to watch your videos and work with you? And so I actually took an idea from one of my own viewers. If you get comments on your videos, just like a little quick thing for people to do, if you put out video content and you get comments, you should be saving, and yes, as you can respond, but saving all those comments. I'll have videos that get 10,000 comments sometimes. I will save all of those comments, run it through AI. I want to know the sentiment. What is the thing that really grabbed their attention about what I was talking about? What are the things that they want to know more about? And what I started finding is I had people starting to refer to me as, this guy actually cares. He's actually the people's lawyer. And so over time, I then began to frame myself from how they already saw me. So now that's my tagline. I'm the people's lawyer. That's what I am. And so because of that, I want to also make sure from a branding perspective, how do I want to be seen? What problem am I solving? Right? Because every video has a villain, it has a guide, and it has a hero. And I tell people this is so very important. You as a lawyer, you're never the hero. You're always the guide. And the viewer's the hero, always. And then whoever the villain is, if you're a personal injury lawyer, it's the insurance company. If you're a criminal lawyer, it's the police officer or the prosecutor. If you go down the list of all of that, if it's estate planning, it's the government taking you on taxes or whatever it is, that if you don't have a will or a trust, you have to recognize that and frame videos from that perspective, and always keep yourself as the guide. The guide's the one who's trusted, right? So I'm kind of going all over the place from what you're talking about here. But when I talk about how do I talk about branding, I think it's important to understand, what does my brand lead people to? I want to see what they think about me. And what does it lead people to? And here's the crazy thing. I have two different law firms, but being known as the people's lawyer, people will then also go to my asset protection law firm, or they will look at my asset protection content. And I've had people who found me on one channel end up watching my content on another and hiring me for both areas, because people follow people, not companies. So if you're going to start a law firm, or you're going to start a law firm YouTube channel, I would encourage you to brand it in your name, because at the end of the day, I've said this many times before, but go look at Elon Musk, Richard Branson. People follow them. They're not following so much their companies. And that's really what the brand is. It's your personality.
That's been a theme in all the content I read on LinkedIn and the people I talk to. Right now, personal branding is big. Personal branding is super important. We're talking to attorneys at law firms and telling them, like, hey, you need to update your Avo, your Justia, your Martindale profiles. And it's a pain in the butt because you have to log into a site. Establishing your name is so important, and people do connect with that more than they connect with brands. Honestly, I can't think of a single brand. Like, I love my Owala water bottle, but like, I don't identify with that water bottle. And in fact, I think I saw an influencer using it and thought, dang, that's pretty nifty. So it was still a person who ultimately sold me on the purchase. So I'll confess, like last week, I watched a video about, or the upcoming of Mr. Beast, or his rise, I guess. If you don't know, and you'll be forgiven if you're not chronically online, but Mr. Beast is like this huge YouTube personality, mostly geared towards kids and teens. And I mean, he's so huge, just absolutely huge, has his own merch at this point and selling chocolate bars at Walmart. But so one of the things that struck me about what he did is whenever he uploads a video, he would test multiple thumbnails. And honestly, I kind of, for a lot of small marketing campaigns, I'm not a huge fan of A/B testing, but with YouTube, I gather that's like super important. And we talked about that, like how you tested thumbnails. My question is like, it strikes me that that would be hard, like the operational marketing lift to be doing that kind of testing, like that requires people, and systems and all this stuff. Can you talk a little bit about your process for that?
First of all, A/B testing can be extremely powerful. YouTube Studio has come a long way in the last couple of years. It used to, though, in order to do A/B testing, you'd have to do something through like a third-party provider to try to test things, and kind of very manual. But YouTube Studio, Google's done a good job of updating it, where now what you find is if a video's not doing well, and this is the part where I try, if you just create content and you have really no idea what you're doing when you put it out there, you can never really diagnose why it did well or didn't do well. And you don't learn the lessons from why, so that way you can double down on that, right? Or you can fix it so it doesn't do it again. So if you're a small channel, I'm not a huge fan of A/B testing. Here's why. Because it does it over based on the number of impressions you receive. So if you're a brand new channel, small channels are not going to get a lot of impressions. So what I prefer people to do separately there, and what we do, our process is, if you're a very small channel or a brand new channel, we start with our highest conviction thumbnail and title. We will run it on a 1 hour, 4, 8, 12, 24, 3-day, 7-day, and 14-day time span of where we're checking these metrics: click-through rate, average view duration, and impression count. Now, why does that matter? Because you want to create a baseline. When you create that baseline and you see what's going on, then what you can do on smaller channels, if it starts off below, if it's below your normal baseline of what you're normally receiving, it will show you that it's not doing well, right? That this video, we've got a really low click-through rate. If you got a 1.5% click-through rate, we have a problem. And so there you can come in and manually make that change and track that over a period of time as well, number of hours, to see as it starts to improve. I've literally been able, just with that system on newer channels, rescue videos. I mean, probably, I don't know, 100 plus videos where they start off really slow, and then they end up tracking that and seeing those numbers. They turn around and you start seeing the graph go like this, where it starts to go back up, almost parabolic. If you're a bigger channel like mine, or let's say you're getting at least 1,000 views per video, you're getting a good number of impressions, this testing features are very powerful, because when you put it in there, the number of impressions will give you a result back quicker, and it will start to show you exactly who the winner is. And they're measuring that based on watch time. The number one thing YouTube cares about is watch time, because they want people on there. And I've had videos with lower click-through rates, but people watch them a long time, and YouTube will just keep pushing them. It'll just keep going. So these kind of rules, when you talk about what those processes are, you have to kind of know, what is a click-through rate? It's the percentage of people that when an impression is out there, they click. It means nothing if you don't know what your baseline is, and it's relative to the number of impressions you receive. So I know I'm kind of getting in the weeds here, but I think it's important that when people launch a video, this is what most people do. They launch videos and they go, well, YouTube doesn't work. And I'm like, well, do you know what you're looking at? Do you have any idea? Like, if you don't watch, kind of like anything in marketing, if you don't know your data, then it's not that it doesn't work. It might be that you didn't do it the right way, or you need to pivot and learn from the things that didn't work, right? And then you want to be able to repeat things that do work. To me, that's a big part of this. That's why I started off, the whole thing I did with YouTube Rainmakers, I started off with this, of course, because attorneys wanted to learn, how do you learn these things in the YouTube studio and in the metrics? Most people don't know anything about it, and most marketing companies don't. And so they kind of feel like it's a black box. Like, how do you ever really get started on YouTube? So that's where I see using the A/B testing on YouTube can be powerful. And the downside is the winners keep winning and the losers kind of keep losing if they don't know how to get out of that sandbox.
I have a few questions. I got to prioritize a little bit though. I don't know exactly how to phrase this, but when it comes to a video's performance, how much is the performance? Does it rest on the content and the video and what was recorded versus like the tweaks you can make to the title, thumbnail, meta description? What's the like percentage breakdown of what the factors are, I guess?
The ultimate potential of a video ends up coming down to the topic and how long people watch. Okay. That's the ultimate decision maker. And so what I mean by that is YouTube is looking for viewer satisfaction. If you have a thumbnail and a title that are amazing, that's what they call clickbait. It can be clickbait. You might get a lot of people that will click on it. And as soon as they watch 30 seconds into it, they're like, man, this is not what I thought I was going to be watching. And they'll bounce off. So if they bounce off, what happens? That's sending a signal to YouTube. This is not quality content. Even with a high click-through rate, YouTube will start to compress that video's reach. Okay. Whereas if you have a video that people want to watch, like one of the videos I launched recently, it has like 2.3 million views and it's still getting right now 1,700 views an hour. And it continues to just track up, but the average percentage viewed is over 57%. So when people are watching on a 9-minute video, 57% of the video, even with 2.4 million people watching it, YouTube's like, yes, this is quality. People really like this content. Let's keep going with it. So I tell people the place to start is the idea. You want to make sure you have a good idea of what you're covering. And if it's a good idea, how do you know that? You can look at other places. One of the classic ways that big YouTubers will test ideas is they'll do X posts, Facebook posts, and they'll look to see in other organic platforms, where do they get more response from and more traction? If it works there, they can categorize what video content they want to do based upon the response they got organically from other platforms, right? That's one way to start with that. And then the second part is creating a script that's engaging and curiosity filled to keep people watching. Then that's when you start spending the time on the title and the thumbnail of making sure that it captures what you're trying to show through the video and earn the click.
I'll be honest with you. I asked that question kind of out of frustration because myself or the marketing team has been tasked with optimizing YouTube. And ultimately we look and say, well, the content's not that good. You know, they uploaded the commercial that they did 5 years ago or something
That's
like
right.
that. It's so hard to articulate. Like there's only so much you can do for a video that nobody wants to watch, and we can't turn something like that into like a YouTube mega hit or a viral hit or whatever exactly you're looking for. When I'm helping law firms with short form video, like TikTok, Facebook, trying to make engaging content, sometimes the pushback I get about the scripts is they're looking for something like more professional, because I'm telling them, you know, record with your phones, make eye contact with the camera, worry about lighting. But I guess essentially sometimes the scripts can seem kind of plain when you're just sitting there and reading it for a camera. What do you think, you know, they're really looking for in terms of production quality when you hear that?
Yeah, you mean like the viewer, right? Like the
Yeah.
viewer, what they're looking for. So this is a really great question. And it also goes back to the point you just made a second ago, which is if someone just uploads their commercial, it doesn't do well. Now, commercials sometimes have very high production value. They could be done really well, but people still don't want to watch it. Why? Because it's self-serving. So the number one thing I tell people is, yes, you want to have good on-brand looking content. There are ways that you can improve the production value of what you do. But I will also say people don't come to see a $1 million production video, especially for law. They're coming because they have a problem and they want you to over deliver on the goods. And you should be giving content as lawyers. Lawyers should be sharing content on their videos that almost makes them nervous they gave away too much. And when I tell people it needs to be helpful content, not commercial content, I do not ask people to ever call my law firm, ever. But I get over 350 local calls a month. What I do instead is leverage the law of reciprocity and give everything away. I give away all my secrets. I earn the trust, and they turn around and they want to hire me. And I'm not the one who came up with that. I mean, go look at some of these other people. Go look at, I'm trying to think of all the other people that are out there doing that. Acquisition.com, the guy who owns acquisition.com. My mind just went blank on him. Cody Sanchez, some of these other big names out there, Gary Vee. What they do is they go out and they give away, Alex Hormozy, that's what I was going to say. They give away their secrets. Alex Hormozy, for years, 2 or 3 years before he did his big $200 million launch on a weekend, he gave away tons of free business information and earned a ridiculous amount of trust. And that's how he single-handedly went from a poor gym owner to almost $1 billion company with acquisition.com. And so what I mean by that is most lawyers think that if they give away too much, some person will just go do it on their own and they won't get hired. But it's the exact opposite. When people see that great competency in what you share with them, they are attracted to work with you. That's how you make good content. And it's not about your production value. Do you see me now in this? This is a very low setup production value thing. I've created, gone to the 3rd largest YouTube channel on the legal side in the country. I have like a $2,000 setup. I don't ever go into some big production unit.
I think part of it's ego driven as well. Like we all see ourselves filming the big commercial. But you're right. I can personally attest to that because I'm in the legal marketing space and I have a Substack. I publish stuff on YouTube or on that Substack, including this, this podcast. What's nice about a platform like that is I can see, who watches, who reads. And it's no surprise the people who open the newsletters are usually the people, 2-3 weeks down the road who reach out to me for a consult. And, I'm not heavy selling. I've actually had people say that to me, like, you give too much away. And it seems like I'm plugging my Substack, which maybe I kind of am. But I don't really necessarily think about it like that because the stuff that we're talking about, YouTube, is not easy to do. No. So you could probably give somebody the entire playbook and it's not going to just manifest. It requires organization, effort, know-how, and you can share all you want, but that's the real barrier. That's the one that people underestimate.
Yeah. And in law, I tell people, if you share all your good information, and that client wanted to go do it on their own, they would have made a horrible client for you anyway. The very worst clients are the ones who want to DIY it. And you don't want to bring them on. They're not worth the headache of what you have to deal with. Whereas I always love the Dan Kennedy line, sell to rich people, right? Like if you can sell to wealthier people, they're usually happier. They're also easier to bring in because they have more concerns. You got to talk about their pain points. And on that end, I've tried to target kind of the wealthier clientele on both sides of my firm as I'm able to, because I want to speak about their problems. And that resonates with them. When they see competency and they give away, they just want to know you know what you're talking about.
I mean, yeah. And particularly with people with disposable income, you start thinking about how do I trade dollars for time, right? And when your audience is lower income, they're not thinking that way. I have a lot of friends who still try to DIY like construction projects. And I'm like, what? Just save up the money, or something. It's not worth it. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't have a chance to go over?
The only thing I will say is this. For attorneys that are unsure about stepping out and doing video, the hardest thing most people have is getting out of the gate and pushing record and then releasing a video because they think it has to be 100% perfect. Done is the enemy of anything you want to get. Perfect is the enemy of anything you want to get done. And when you're trying to make things perfect and you don't get them done, you don't get it out the gate. I have videos that are embarrassing that are out there right now that I still hate on YouTube, but I still get clients look at them and they sign up from them. So I keep them up. And so I can just encourage people, even if it's not the best, if it's not the perfect thing you wanted, if you start to record, you'll get in that cadence. And of all the things I've ever done on the marketing side, I've never regretted doing video content because they're just evergreen and it keeps bringing in more and more business.
Where do you want people to look you up, learn more about you?
Always welcome you can go to YouTube, Rainmakers.com, my primary website. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn if you ever have any questions. Look up Jeff Hampton. You'll see YouTube Rainmakers there. I try to always be responsive, interact with folks if they have any questions on that end, and I can be reached at both of those places.
Well, thanks so much for being on this show. Really appreciate it. YouTube feels very exciting. I have a renewed excitement for it with all the changes in AGO and all this stuff. So thanks again, and we'll talk to everyone next time.
Thank you.